Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name is Bobby. This video is going to be about harvesting some crops. Late summer, it is currently August 21st, and we're going to plant some crops for the fall. So if crop harvesting and planting is not of interest to you, then this may not be the video for you today. However, I will share an update in a little bit on the zinnia and pro-cut sunflower seedlings we planted together in a recent video, and I will also share an update on the two planters and the dwarf sunflowers. I thought you might like to see them because they are in bloom now. They weren't in bloom the last time we looked at them. So this is my second carrot harvest of the season, and you can see they're looking really good. I plant my carrots with carrot seed tape. Sometimes I get Burpee organic seed tape carrot. Sometimes I get them from Park Seed. I don't think I will ever go back to growing carrots without using carrot seed tape. You don't have to thin them. It works perfectly, and the actual material that is the seed tape just disintegrates into the soil and it composts into the soil. So you can see the great harvest that I get, and I'll put on the screen which particular carrot this is. It might be I'm not sure. I can't remember which one, but I'll put it on the screen which carrot this is. And in this bed is also growing self-seeded holy basil. I did not plant any holy basil in here. I've had holy basil in the beds behind me, and I'll show you this tomato jungle in a bit. I actually stopped pruning my tomato plants. I stopped tying them up. I stopped doing everything. And we have been harvesting so many tomatoes. I'm really thankful. We've been able to share them with family and different people. And my husband just loves the little cherry tomatoes. So he's the one that does all the harvesting of the tomatoes. He's in charge of that. He harvested the beans for me. I'll show you those in a bit. But anyway, let's keep harvesting these carrots because I want to plant a fall crop of cabbage in here. So unfortunately, that means I have to pull out all of the holy basil. My granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, made some tea with holy basil last year. She has holy basil growing in her garden as well, and there's just tons of seeds. They're not dried yet, but that's why I have so much holy basil that just self-seeds itself. And so there's tons of seeds. I'm going to throw them down here. They may germinate down there, but who knows. And the pollinators. I'm looking at a bee right now that is on the holy basil. As a matter of fact, I'll take you off of the tripod for a second, and I'm going to show you this bee. His little back legs are just completely covered. These beds are from Epic Gardening. They're Birdie's beds, and they're food safe. I grow all of my food in the Birdie's beds, and I have one Vago garden bed. But let's see if we can find this bee. So this is all of the holy basil that you're seeing here. There he is. There it is. I don't know if I can zoom. I don't know if I can catch the pollen on its hind legs here. There it is. You can see it a little bit. You see the red on its hind legs? That's pollen. I really feel bad about taking the pollen source for this little bee. It appears to be the only one working. There's a couple of little teeny bees. But I have more holy basil over here. I have so many other things in the garden that they can feed on. And the holy basil is going to have to go because I want to plant the cabbage. And I don't use a lot of basil in my cooking. I love holy basil, but I mostly use it as a companion crop just to draw in the bees, or also to ward off the bad bugs on different things. And it does work. But holy basil, I almost walked over to the camera and held it up for you to smell it. You can't smell it. It's my favorite basil. Oh, it's just the aroma of holy basil. There's just nothing like it. It's truly holy. And I'm so sorry, little bee, but I'm going to have to disrupt If you give your carrots a little wiggle when you pull them out, then they come out pretty easily. I did just notice a holy basil plant over here in this bed where all of these asters are self-sowed, and I'll show you those up close in a bit. But I had annual asters here last year, and they self-sowed themselves in the bed and in the gravel. So I just let them stay. This area is behind our garage, so it's half utility. It's where I do all my veggies. It gets afternoon sun, not the best morning sun, which it should be the other way around. But so far we've had really good veggie harvests. And you can see behind me, as I said, this jungle of tomato plants and pepper plants. We've been harvesting peppers too. Here's what the holy basil looks like. And if you like to use it, if you like to dry it, make teas out of it. I think I already said it's really good for hormonal imbalance, holy basil is. So that's what we use it for, but as I said, my granddaughter grows it too for that purpose. So she makes teas for us. I don't have a root cellar or cold storage, so I just store these carrots in the veggie drawer, the crisper drawer of my fridge. They last a really long time. Same with my potatoes that we harvested. We're still eating on potatoes from a bed that I'll show you that I'm going to be planting beans in. And I store them in a dark pantry, and they last a long time. So not to worry if you don't have a cold storage. I think if there were a ton of bees on here, I probably wouldn't have the heart to pull the holy basil. But since there's only one guy, and it seems to be really getting loaded up there, so I think he needs to move on and do whatever. For point of reference for you, I planted my original crop of carrots on April 1st. I just saw the tag, and you're seeing a picture now of my original my first harvest of carrots. And then about a month later, I planted the rest of the seed tape I had, which was not a ton. So you can see I didn't get a huge harvest out of, because I only had a little bit of seed tape left, but it's pretty good. You can see my little tag here, carrots 4-1, April 1st. That's when I initially sowed the first ones. Okay, so now we're just going to put a bag of land and sea compost to charge it up a little bit, and then we are going to plant our cabbage, which I have cabbage plants. It's too late for me to start cabbage from seed, so I do have some cabbage plants. I think I will go ahead and, before we plant the cabbage, I'm going to take the tops off of these carrots, and I'm going to put some things in my pop-up bag to compost. I do want to pick the rest of the Italian green beans because I only got 2 quarts from our first picking, which I kind of expected more. But when you're growing things in a raised bed, you don't get huge harvest, but you get a good harvest. So there's that. I need to get a new pop-up bag. I waited to get one from Garden Answer because I like the style they have of the ones they're selling. And I waited till they had free shipping, and I went on to get it, and they were sold out. Maybe I could have gotten a rain check. I don't know how that works with them. got the beans we'll be planting too, and I don't want to lose those. So really cool antique. I think this is an egg basket, isn't it? That I will use for a harvest basket today. So not bad for a final harvest. Couple pounds, maybe 3, maybe. Not bad. And I will wash these real well before I put them in, I just put them in a plastic bag and keep them in the crisper drawer. So, and I like to roast them, roast carrots, put a little bit of honey or maple syrup on them and roast them. Yum, yum. We'll go ahead and put this land and sea compost just to, as I said, charge up the soil. Since it has worked quite a bit, and there is a bad worm, you need to go. Sorry, dude. Oh, bad worm. I'll go ahead and use the whole bag. It's just 1 cubic foot, so I'll just use the whole bag. I'm digging down with my hoe, so I won't be planting directly in the new compost. You need soil and compost mixed. And this original soil has been in here for probably 3 years now, I guess. And I just charge it up. I don't have any garden tone, but I do have biotone starter fertilizer. And this will be just fine. Basically has the same thing the garden tone would have in it. It's just with the garden tone, you would use that to feed that after your plants are grown or established. There's still a little bit of foliage left from the holy basil in here. That's fine. It's just pieces of foliage. That will turn into compost as well. Good for the soil. These are the cabbage plants we will be planting, and I'm ashamed to say I've had these for like 2 weeks. Just haven't had time to harvest those carrots and get these planted. So these mature in 60 to 70 days, and they will be great even if the light frost comes, because our first frost date here in Zone 7A is October 23rd. That's our first expected frost. But they will be fine because they have at least 60 days before the first frost. Let's see, 3.5 pound fruit you get on them. So, and then this is Red Express cabbage here, because we do love some red cabbage. It's great, and make a red cabbage salad. This is 55 to 75 days, so about the same, 2 to 4 pound size heads. They're going to be much happier in this bed than they are in this little cell pack. We got them all in, and I feel like they may be a tad close together. There's about, between most of them, there's about 8 inches. That may be okay, but I wanted to put them all in this one bed, so it is what it is. We'll see how it works. I've never grown cabbage in these beds. And these are the hoops that I make. These are just garden stakes, green garden stakes. I think they are 2 feet or 3 feet, I'm not sure. And then this is PVC, I call it PVC pipe. It's like a plumber's pipe, and I buy it in a big roll. and then cut it to the length I want it. These hoops are going to be really tall. I probably could get by with just using my regular hoops that I get on Amazon. Let's see if this ends up being too tall. So I really only need 3 for this bed. And then you just stick them down into the ground. Stick them into the bed. So yeah, that's going to be really tall. This is lightweight or summer weight garden cloth that I get on Amazon. I may end up going with the shorter hoops. Let me see. Let me see how this looks and works. I guess I'll stick with my taller hoops. That's okay. Now if I can cut it without cutting it too short, you can always roll it up when you fasten it. I use clothespins to fasten it. Of course, I won't be cutting it in a straight line because whoever does that. And I just use these plastic clothespins I bought at Walmart. They seem to work the best. And with the excess over here, I'm just going to roll it up, roll it under so I don't have to cut a whole bunch. Because I do sometimes use this on a bigger bed and I have plenty. You want to try to keep it as sealed as you can, which sometimes they still get in there. But seal up everything as well as you can. Of course I cut it too short. Of course I did. But thankfully I have excess over here. So hopefully I have it all sealed up well enough for no moths and buggies to get in here. A lot of times the cabbage worms will just be on the outside leaves and you just pick those off. Since I'm used to hooping and covering things, then it's not a problem for me. It won't block the sunlight when it gets the afternoon sun, and it won't block the rain and when I water them. So I'm looking forward to a good cabbage harvest. Let's go ahead and sow this bed with the beans. This is where we had our potatoes. I think I already topped this bed off with some compost, but it's been a while after I harvested all of the potatoes. I think I did, but I'm not 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of this. And this is just the Land and Sea compost by Espoma. Okay, so I hoed in the compost, then I smoothed it with my hand. I'm not going to give it any biotone starter fertilizer or chicken manure or anything because beans are a soil fixer themselves. I'm going to do 3 rows going this way. Yeah, so you're just going to plant your beans an inch deep. So you can take your hoe or you can take your hand. Beans aren't fussy, really, that I have found, other than they don't like the hot heat. They'll kind of shut down and your bean plants will stop producing. So I'm just doing an inch here with my hand. So the package says your rows should be about 12 to 24 inches apart. These are not that. Maybe 12 inches apart. But I've always planted my beans in rows like this, and then I usually put my bean seeds about 4 to 5 inches apart from each other. So I've always had really good beans. I don't know if this works for me. So here's what your green beans, these are stringless green beans. Here's what the bean looks like. These others might be white looking. Let's see. No, they're just a little bigger. Yeah, they're just a little bit bigger. Whoops, I just dropped one. Just have a bean on the ground. I think I see it. So now I'm just going to pinch the soil back over them. You can do 1 to 2 inches really when you're planting your beans, but you're going to be about 7 to 14 days before they germinate, just because it's a bigger seed. Boy, does that make you feel good to have the last crop of beans planted, and I'll be excited to get those in the freezer. I blanch and freeze my beans, so I will be excited to have those for the winter time. And I have probably another quart or two to pick off of the Italian green beans, so that's pretty exciting. Here's the cabbage we planted a little closer up. Here are the Italian green beans. This is what they look like. They're flat and they're really a nice bean. There's one that's been eaten a little bit. That one needs to go. There's our carrot harvest up close. Here's some more self-seeded holy basil. And this is another dwarf basil. Super cute. It doesn't really flower too much, just a little bit, but you can see the conglomerate of tomatoes in here, but they still are just producing like crazy. We are getting a big harvest every evening. Yummy. Good. These are all the self-seeded asters in here. And then I did direct sow some zinnias and some crackerjack marigolds. And a bunny got in this bed and ate the crackerjack marigolds. I was in shock because, you can see there, I was in shock because they have an odor. Marigold's foliage has an odor. I can't believe a bunny ate it. So I kind of quick stuck some fencing around, of course, not to keep the bunny out. That won't work. And these are just growing in the gravel here, right beside these beds. The seeds must have fallen last year. So I told my husband, I said, you know, I'm not weed eating that because they are flowers. He said, oh, I figured they were. These are some of our slicer tomatoes. They are Parker's Whopper, I think, is the ones I grew. And then I have a ton of Roma tomatoes buried down in there as well. So here is the bed that we planted out together with these seedlings. These are the carousel zinnias and the Pro-Cut plum sunflowers. Look how great they're doing. About an hour after I planted this bed, a huge thunderstorm came and all of the seedlings were flat on the ground. And I said, oh my, they're done, they're toast. But by the next afternoon, they straightened themselves out. They are pretty resilient. Here's the seedlings that we sowed, direct sowed. The rest of them are the ones that I sowed from the cell packs that I grew them in. I got a couple holes that I can transplant some of these seedlings into. And the feverfew that we cut back is growing back and starting to bud up a little bit. The second flush of blooms that I will get on feverfew is not nearly as nice as the first flush of blooms, but still I will have some. There's a little bloom coming on. So one of the gardeners here that is subscribed to my channel mentioned in a comment that I put the picket fence backwards, and you're right, I see that now. I see it. You know, you really want to see the pickets. You don't want to see the brace part that there. I mean, you can go either way, but you really want to see the picket is the point of a picket fence. In my defense of that, as I said, that day, it was so hot. The sun was going in and out. The thunder was rolling. And it was just like, get this done. Get it done. And now that it's all in here, I'm really not going to switch it around. It's okay with me. I will be more aware next time I use this little picket fence to put the pickets facing out, so that all you see is the pickets, because you can see here what I'm talking about, or what she was talking about. So thanks, friend, for pointing that out. You're totally right. You want to see the pickets, not the braces. And here's an updated view of these two containers. And look at these dwarf sunflowers. Aren't they adorable? Yeah, I will definitely do this again, I believe, with these dwarf sunflowers. Very, very pleased with those. The lantana is loving life, and the begonias blooming, the coleus, just a really cute little accent there, I think, with those coleus. Isn't that a pretty coleus? And then the portulaca over here. So yeah, definitely a repeat on those little dwarf sunflowers. Guess I have more in this bed than in that bed. I grew those from seed in the cell packs in my greenhouse, and then I transplanted those out. I honestly can't see a thing. I have so much sweat running down my eyes. It's not that hot because it's overcast. It was a fun day of harvesting, planting the beans, getting a little tour of some of the other things that I've showed you before. And I'm looking forward to scrubbing those carrots, getting them in the fridge. Sweet William will be very happy that I got a final harvest off of the carrots. I very much appreciate you being here with me today, friends. We'll see you in a video real soon. Bye.